Please, my love, look at our child.
What is it you want?
He needs his father. Please, don't turn away. Chidi, please. She's 3 weeks old. She's 3 weeks old and it is midnight. Please. My love, please, just look at our baby. Don't turn away from us now.
My mother cannot lie to me. Pack your remaining things and go.
I swear, I am innocent.
A witch can carry a child. It does not make her innocent.
But I am not a witch. I am your wife. I carried this child for 9 months in this house.
A witch can carry a child. It does not make her innocent.
No, please. Where am I supposed to go? Chidi, look at me.
The morning Amara packed the last of her things into Chidi's car and left Enugu for the first time since the night he threw her out, she did not cry. She had used up every tear she had on a cold street in GRA, standing barefoot at midnight with a 3-week-old daughter pressed to her chest and a gate closed firmly against her back. There were no tears left for a morning like that one. There was only the road and whatever God had hidden at the end of it. But we must go back, because no story this painful begins at the end. Amara Okonko was a registered nurse at Enugu State University Teaching Hospital when she met Chidi Eze at a colleague's engagement party in Independence Layout. He was tall, easy to laugh, and he had a way of listening that made you feel like the only person in a crowded room. She was 28. He was 32. Within 6 months, he had visited her family in Suka twice, paid her bride price, and placed a ring on her finger that she wore with a pride she had never felt before in her life. She quit her job because Chidi asked her to. He said a wife of his would not be working night shifts and handling strange men. She agreed because she loved him and because she believed the home they were building together was worth any sacrifice she made along the way. What she did not know, what she could not have known, was that Chidi's mother, Mama Chidima, was a woman who had survived her husband's death by becoming the unchallenged authority in her son's life. Chidi was her first son, her pride, her investment. She had already chosen a girl from their village in Udi, a quiet girl from a family she knew, a family that owed her favors. When Chidi came home with Amara from Unsuka, a stranger, a city nurse with education and opinions, Mama Chidina smiled at the introduction and began sharpening her knife the very same evening. She started slowly, a comment here, a suggestion there. Amara is fine, but she's too sharp for a wife. That kind of woman will never submit. Chidi did not greet me well this morning. Did you see how she looked at me? Chidi would defend Amara at first, but a man who has never learned to disappoint his mother is a man who will eventually disappoint his wife. And Mama Chidima knew her son better than he knew himself. By the time Amara was 6 months pregnant, the atmosphere in that house had changed in ways she could feel but could not name. Chidi was quieter. He stopped reaching for her hand the way he used to. He started spending more evenings at his mother's end of the compound and coming to bed after she was asleep. Amara told herself it was stress. She told herself all men behaved this way during pregnancy. She prayed every morning and cooked every evening and swallowed her fear like medicine. Then she delivered their daughter. The baby was small but healthy, a perfect thing with Chidi's nose and Amara's eyes, and for 3 days Chidi held her like she was made of something sacred. Amara watched him and thought, this is it. This is what will hold us. This child will hold us together. But things became worse. Within the same week of the baby's birth, one of Mama Chidima's prize goats was found dead behind the compound. A week after that, a business deal Chidi had been pursuing for months fell through suddenly. Mama Chidima did not waste a single day. She went to Chidi with her eyes full of tears and her hands shaking, and she said, "My son, something entered this house when that woman entered it. I have been quiet because I did not want to spoil your happiness. But a dead goat and a destroyed deal in the same week your wife delivers? Open your eyes." Chidi told her she was overreacting. She left and came back the next morning with a man. The man wore white and carried a raffia bag. He walked through the compound slowly, muttering, stopping at doorways, pressing his palm to walls. Then he stood in the middle of the compound and pointed directly at the room where Amara was nursing her newborn daughter. "The evil is from that room," he said. "The woman in that room is not what she appears to be. She married your son to eat his destiny. The child she has delivered carries her covenant. If she remains in this house, 3 men in this family will die before next Harmattan." Chidi stood there and listened. He stood there while his mother wept beside him. He stood there while his 2 sisters held each other and trembled. And something in him, some weak, terrified, poorly rooted thing, began to believe. Amara was not told any of this. Not that evening, not the next day. She only noticed that her food was being brought by nobody, that the women in the house had stopped entering her room, and that Chidi now stood at the doorway instead of sitting beside her on the bed. She asked him what was wrong. He said nothing. She asked again the following day. He said he was tired. On the 21st night after her daughter's birth, Chidi came into the room at 11 o'clock and told her to pack her things. Amara thought she had misheard him. She actually laughed, a short, confused sound that did not belong to any kind of happiness. "Pack my things," she repeated. "My family has seen what you are," he said. "I cannot have this in my house. I cannot have my children raised in this kind of darkness." The world cracked open. She could feel it cracking. She stood up from the bed on legs that were still swollen and walked toward him and said, "Chidi, I just had your baby 3 weeks ago. Tell me you are not saying what I think you are saying." He did not touch her. He did not look at the baby. He picked up the bag that had already been packed for her. His mother had packed while Amara slept, and he walked out of the room. She begged at that gate for 40 minutes. She begged with the baby on her chest and her surgical scar pulling with every movement. She called his name. She called God's name. The lights in the compound went out one by one, and then the gate closed, and she was standing in the dark on the street in GRA Enugu at midnight with a 3-week-old daughter and nothing else. A commercial motorcyclist found her sitting on the ground at 12:30 and took her to a nearby church where the night security guard let her sleep in the vestibule until morning. She called her younger brother Emeka at 5 a.m. He drove from Nusuka in 2 hours, and when he arrived and saw his sister sitting on a church bench with a newborn on her chest and hospital slippers on her feet, he wept in a way grown men in their family were never supposed to weep. Emeka was a journalist, and journalists do not forget things. But first, Amara had to survive. She moved back to Nusuka. She went back to studying because her nursing certificate alone was no longer enough for the life she was determined to build. She enrolled in a part-time degree program while her mother helped with the baby. She named her daughter Chisom, meaning God is with me, and she raised her with a fierceness and a tenderness that only a woman who has been thrown away in the dark truly understands. She did not contact Chidi. She did not go to court immediately. She waited. She gathered herself and she studied. She passed her exams with distinctions that surprised even her lecturers. She secured a posting to Abuja. She climbed. While Amara climbed, Chidi fell. It started with the business that never recovered, the same one that had failed the week Chisom was born. Then there was a second investment that a cousin convinced him to make that dissolved into nothing. His mother, satisfied that the witch was gone, began pushing another woman into his life, the village girl she had always wanted. Chidi married her within a year. She was quiet, obedient, and exactly what Mama Chidinma had ordered. She was also sick in ways nobody knew until it was too late. Within 2 years of the marriage, she was in and out of hospital. There were no children. There was no peace. There was only a man who had made the worst decision of his life, sitting in a compound that his mother controlled, watching everything he had hoped for turn to dust in his hands. And then came Emeka's article. It was published in a national newspaper on a Sunday morning, and it was titled, "What They Did to My Sister in the Name of Witchcraft." Emeka wrote everything. He named no names but described every detail with the precision of a man who had been waiting 7 years to use his pen for something that mattered. The story spread across social media within hours. People who knew Chidi, who knew the compound in GRA, who knew Mama Chidinma, they all began putting together a story they had heard pieces of before. 3 days after the article, one of the sisters who had held each other trembling in the compound that night showed up at Amara's family house in Suka. She had driven herself. She sat down with Amara's mother and confessed what she had been carrying for 7 years. She said the man in white had been paid. She said the amount. She said who had paid him. She said it had been arranged before Amara even entered that family. That Mama Chidima had gone looking for that prophet 2 months into Chidi's engagement to Amara, had paid him a full consultation fee, and had given him detailed instructions on what to say and when to say it. There had never been any witchcraft. There had only been a mother who loved her son wrongly. She destroyed him, trying to keep him. When Amara received this information, she sat with it for a long time. She did not rage, she did not celebrate. She took it to her lawyer, who took it to a court, and what followed was a custody settlement and a divorce proceeding that left no room for any more lies. And then came the moment that this story will never stop being told for. 18 months after the article, a man was brought into the emergency unit of the hospital where Amara now worked as a senior medical officer in Maitama, Abuja. He had collapsed at a business meeting. His blood pressure was dangerously high. His chart said he had been ignoring symptoms for months. The registrar who received him called for the duty consultant. Amara walked in, took the chart, looked up, and looked straight into the face of Chidieze. He saw her at the same moment. Whatever color remained in his face left immediately. She stood there in her white coat with her ID badge and her stethoscope, and 7 years of surviving him written in the quiet authority of how she carried herself. And then she did something he would tell people about for the rest of his life. She treated him completely, professionally, without a single missing detail. She ordered every test. She adjusted his medication. She sat with the team and made sure his care was correct. When he was stabilized and moved to a ward, she came to check on him once more and stood at the foot of his bed. "You are stable," she said. "You will need to manage your pressure consistently from here. My registrar will give you the full discharge instructions. Amara, get some rest, Mr. Eze." She wrote something on his chart, clicked her pen, and walked out. Chisom was 9 years old by then. She was top of her class, fearless, and completely loved. She did not know a gate had once been closed against her in the dark. She only knew her mother as the woman who never stopped, who always showed up, who built something out of nothing and called it home. That is the kind of mother you become when they throw you out and God catches you on the other side. Mama Chidima lived long enough to see everything she had built crumble. She lived long enough to see Chidi's second marriage end quietly. She lived long enough to see Amara's name on a hospital board and in a newspaper. Not a Mecca's article this time, but an award, a national healthcare recognition. She lived long enough to know what she had done. Whether she ever admitted it, only God and her own heart know. But Amara did not need the admission. She had Chisom. She had her white coat. She had a life that nobody handed her. A life she had rebuilt on her own 2 swollen midnight feet on a dark street in Enugu, while a gate closed behind her and a baby cried against her chest. And that was more than enough. Some gates close so that God can open a door so large the people who locked you out will spend the rest of their lives unable to look at it without feeling the full weight of what they did. Do not let what they did to you become the end of your story. Let it become the beginning of the one they never imagined for you. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe to Gracious Folk Tales so you never miss a story. Drop a comment below and tell us, have you ever been wrongly judged by people who are supposed to protect you? And if you are going through something like Amara right now, hold on, your gate is coming. Like this video and help us reach more people who need these stories. We will see you in the next one.